Hi developers, in this video we'll learn how to use some useful VSTS tasks. We'll start by post to Slack. This task enables us to send a message to our development team to say we have the latest build or release was done successfully, for example. Then we'll move to replace tokens, which enable us to change some tokens in our source code by values defined in VSTS. Then we'll see how to configure Sonar Cloud in order to analyze the source code of our application to make sure it's reliable, it's maintainable, and it's secure. Then we'll see how we can swap a web app on Azure from pre-prod to production environment. After that, we'll see App Center publish. This task enables us to send an Android APK or iOS API into a private set of users. Those could be our beta testers, for example. Then we'll finish by performance load testing, which simulate that our website is used by, for example, 100 users during 60 seconds, for example. The task post to Slack is used to send information about the status of the build or the release to the development team. Developers prefer to use Slack channels. For that, it's a convenient way to tell them if the build is does succeeded or not. Let's try to add this task to this present pipeline. So here it's the pipeline for an ASP.NET Core MVC application, and to this pipeline I want to add the task post to Slack. To do that, I click on this plus icon right here. This will show up this window. Then I can search the task Slack, and here I get it, and you see that here I need to install it on the marketplace. So for you, if you didn't install it, you won't see the task. For that, you will need to go to the marketplace, then hit the install button. You see here that it's disabled for me because I have already installed it. You will get also here all the information about this task, how to use it and how to install it. So you'll need to press get it for free to install it to your current VSTS account. Then you hit download and it's just a few clicks away. Once that's done, now you can add this task post to Slack. Here I added to the end of my pipeline where I can get the information about the status of all the previous tasks. So here for the name, I'll keep it post to Slack. That's the name displayed on the task itself. This task have some required parameters. Let's start with the message author. The message author here is the one who sent the message. So here I configure it to tell that my current app is the one that sent this message. For that, I'll copy the name of my app, or for the entire CI name right here, so that I can see that this message was sent by my CI pipeline. Then we have another parameter, which is the message itself. So here by default it tells that the build number was executed successfully, and here it gets that build number which will be associated to this project. We can change the content of this message to include anything defined as variables. So here if I use the build number, but I can use the variables defined right here. So for example, the system debug, or I can see this definition ID, build configuration for release or build, and so on. We do also have a larger list of variables. So if you go to this link right here, then I'll get all the variables defined in VSTS. So you see here we do have lots of variables defined with their definition and what they do. I have already prepared a message that will be sent. So here in the message I'll go and paste this one right here, and let's see what it do. So for the first line right here, it embeds the build number and the definition name, which will be the name of the CI pipeline. Then we'll use the build ID, which is an incremental number like the build number. Then we have the information about the build queued by, which will tell us which developer triggered this pipeline. Then we have the agent name to see which agent triggered this pipeline. So if we go here to get to phase 1, we see that here we have lots of agents that could execute our CI pipeline. So this information, agent queue, will tell us which agent was chosen for executing this pipeline. Here we are also using the build.sources directory, which will tell us the agent, which folder the agent have used in order to build this CI. We do also have build.source branch name, which will tell us which branch is used in order to create this CI, if it's master or dev or another feature branch. We also have the source version, which will tell us the number of the commit that triggered this CI pipeline. Note that here that in each time we want to display the value of the variable, we are using this syntax $ and 2 parentheses. The next required parameter is the Slack API token, and this is to grant access to VSTS to be able to send messages to Slack. We can get this by creating a Slack application. So here, if I go to api.slack.com, right here I can create a Slack app, and it's easy. Just here I have the button create a new app. I specify a name for my app. I call it VSTS-demo. Then I select my Slack account or workplace and create the app. Once that's done, here I'll go to OAuth and permissions in order to grant permissions to my created app. So here, right down, I'll go to here you see that install app is disabled because I need to select permission scopes. So here I'll choose the 2 permissions. The first one is the post messages to Slack, and then a second permission is send messages as VSTS demo. Once I have those 2 permissions, I save the changes, and now I can install the app to workplace. I click on that, then I select here the channel. So this app will be able to send messages to my Slack account through the VSTS channel. I have already created this channel previously. Then right here I do have the OAuth access token. I'll go and copy it and reuse it from my Slack task. It is not a good practice to save it directly right here because all my developers will be able to see it. So I'll cut it and I'll save it in a safe place where I can hide it. So I'll go to variables and add a new variable. As we do have those variables, actually we can create a new one ourselves. So I'll name this variable Slack.token API or Slack.token. Then I'll paste the value for this key value, and here I can choose to click this button that will change the visibility for this key forever. So from now on I would not be able to see the value of my Slack.token, and so on. Any developer of my team won't be able to see it. Then I go back here and use the value of the variable. So I use the $ parentheses syntax, and inside I put the slack.token, the name of my variable. Then we need to specify the channel or the display name for this one. Here we have used VSTS as we have done with the app that we have created on the Slack application. Then I choose an image. So here I have prepared one. I just paste the URL of that icon. And now I should be able to save and queue this CI pipeline in order to execute and then send me the result of the build. So here the build was done successfully. So if I go to my VSTS account, to the VSTS channel, here I get my message coming from my VSTS task that tells me the build for this build number was done successfully. And here I have all the information for the definition name, the build ID, or the person who have triggered that build, and so on. Let's now see the case of a failed build. So here we have configured this message to send message to say the build hour succeeded, but in the case of the build that doesn't succeed, here we need to specify another message. So we can configure that if we go right down to control options right here and run this task section. We can see that we do have many options. So the first one, the message will send when only all previous tasks have succeeded, but if that's not the case, we can choose only when a previous task has failed. So this will tell that the message or the build has failed. So we can configure to send another message. In this demo, we'll see how to use the task replace tokens in order to edit or replace the values from our source code application with values from variables in VSTS. So here I have a sample ASP.NET Core application, and to this app I want to add the task replace tokens in order to change some configuration in my ASP.NET Core application. For that, here I'll go click on this plus button. This will bring this window where I can choose which task I want to add to my pipeline. So here I look for a task called replace tokens, and it's this one, this second one right here. Just don't use the first one because it's a bit different from the one I'm using right here. So it's called replace tokens. And of course you need to install it through the marketplace if you don't see it in your tasks. So let's go and add this one to our pipeline. It's added to the end, so I replace it at the first because I want to edit my files. Then I want to start restoring, building, and publishing the application. So let's start configuring the parameters requested by this task. Here we'll start with the root directory, where it will get the path for the files that contains the key values that we want to change. So let's specify the path right here, and because I'm in the build pipeline, here it will bring me the source code or the repository. Here I'm using a GitHub repository, so I can access all the files in my GitHub repository. Here I want to change inside the pages folder, I want to change the layout.cs HTML. In ASP.NET Core applications, this is we can call it the razor page that displays an HTML pages. So that's the root for the directory. So here I need to remove the layout.cs HTML, which is the name of the file, and then I'll paste it to target files. The root directory is only the root for the folder, and the target file is the file itself. So it will look for the target file inside the root directory. We want to change some values inside the layout.cshtml file with variables defined in VSTS. So I'll go to variables menu right here and define a new variable key value. Here, let's see, I want to define the version name. I have already created one, so I'll go and create it again. So my version name will be v2.0, for example, and I want to display this value inside my layout.cshtml. So I'll save this change, then I go back to tasks, and right here let's see the other values specified right here. So if I go to advanced, then here I see the syntax that I should use inside my layout CSHTML file in order to recognize the variable or the value that I want to change. So here we need to use a token prefix and suffix. So let's go back to our source code application here inside VS Code. I'll go and open my application inside the pages folder, and I go to layout.cshtml, and here let's say, for example, in the footer I want to show the version name for my current web application. For that, here I show build name. Then I want to show the value of the build name, which will be taken from VSTS. So I need to use this syntax. So make sure you use the same syntax for the prefix and also for the suffix. That's cool. Then inside the this syntax right here, I'll go and copy the name of my variable. So let's copy it. Then I'll paste it right here. So VSTS will look for this prefix and suffix and look for the name of the variable defined inside of it. Then it will replace it with the value that we have specified. So it will write build name v2.0. So this value will be replaced by VSTS at the first of our pipeline before starting the process of building the app. So I'll push the changes. I have done that through git push. Then here we'll start the CI pipeline. So it will start the build. It has started. So now if I go to my web app, right here it doesn't display that value that we have added, but if I refresh, then here we see it adds the version 2.0 to the footer of my web app. In this demo, we'll learn how to use Sonar Cloud in order to analyze the source code of our application, so we can detect security issues and we can see the maintainability of our application. Here I do have a Xamarin Android application, but of course you can choose any .NET application to apply Sonar Cloud to it, or any platform supported by Sonar Cloud. That could be Java application, Node.js, or whatever. So here I have defined this Xamarin Android application, and to this pipeline I'll add the task for Sonar Cloud. So I click the plus button, then I search for Sonar Cloud, and here we do have the 3 tasks that we need to add to our pipeline. I'll start by selecting or by adding this first one right here, prepare analysis configuration, which will do all the configuration needed in order to connect to Sonar Cloud. If you don't see it in this list, then make sure you install it through the VSTS marketplace, and make sure you select Sonar Cloud, not Sonar Cube. Here I have already installed it, so it shows me that it's already installed and the button is disabled. Let's start by adding this the first task right here. So I select it, then I click add, and here it's added to the bottom of my pipeline. I don't want it to be at the last as the last task. For that, I replace or I drag it just before the build process. Then we'll start configuring the parameters for this task. So here we need to connect VSTS to Sonar Cloud. For that, I'll go and click the new button in order to grant access to Sonar Cloud from VSTS. So here I need to specify connection name. So let's call it Sonar Cloud connection. And of course, you can choose whatever name you want. After that, we'll take care of the Sonar Cloud token value. So we can get that value from Sonar Cloud page. So here I'll go to this link provided in VSTS, and from here I need to create a new token from the Sonar Cloud website. So here I'll go to plus, analyze a new Sonar Cloud project. Then from here I select my organization, then click continue, and this will bring me to the second part of creating the token. Here it tells me to generate a token, so I need a name for this token. I call it VSTS-token for Xamarin. I click generate, and now this is the token we want to use in our VSTS. So let's copy it and let's continue to the third and last phase right here, where we need to specify the language we want to use for the analyze. Here, because I'm using Xamarin Android, it's based on C#, but here you have the Sonar Cloud supports many other languages. Here I'm asked to define a unique project key. So let's give it a name. Let's call it xamarin.android. Then let's hit done. Once that's created right here, now we'll go back to VSTS, where here we have copied the value of the token. So I'll copy it again. Then coming to VSTS, I'll paste this value right here. Note here it's stored as a secure string. We don't see it. So now I go and verify and click OK. And here it's now VSTS connected to my Sonar Cloud account. So now from the organization, I can select one of my two organizations that I have created. So I select the first one right here. Then here we do have another required step, which is the project key. So the project key is the one we have created at the last step, at the step number 3, and that was the name of the project. So if I go back to step number 3, then I can get the name that I have specified right here. So I copy the name of the project I have created, Xamarin Android Demo. Let's copy it, then let's paste it right here. So the analyze will be sent to that project, and VSTS needs to know which project to send the analyze to. So those are all the required steps in order to connect Sonar Cloud or to connect VSTS to Sonar Cloud. And this task do only the connection to Sonar Cloud. But now let's add the other two steps or two tasks for analyzing the code and publishing the results. So let's add the one for running the code analysis. So we add it right here, but we need to run the code analysis after the build. So it takes the DLL and apply the analysis on that DLL. Here we don't have anything to configure because we configured everything in the step and the task prepare analysis on Sonar Cloud. So now it will only perform the analysis, and it will have the results in this folder. Now let's add this last step, or the third one, which is the prepare or the publish quality gate result. This one will take the analysis, the results of the analysis, and it will push it to our to your account on Sonar Cloud, so you can see the results there. Here we don't have any required configuration. It's all configured on the task prepare analysis on Sonar Cloud. So now we are ready to run the analysis on this project. So I'll go and save in the queue. And let's take a look at our project on Sonar Cloud. So let's exit this window and let's go to our organization, and let's see the project that we have created. It's the last one right here, Xamarin Android demo. So you see here some results from previous projects that I have created. Here it gives us the results about bugs, vulnerabilities, code smells, coverage, and duplications. We'll get the same results for the new analysis once it finishes executing. In this demo, we'll learn how to swipe a web app on Azure from the staging to the prod environment. So here I have defined both environments, and from Azure right here I have created a web app with 2 slots. Right here I have a staging slot, and I also have the dev slot. In the staging environment in VSTS, I have 2 tasks. So if I take a look at those tasks here, in staging, I'm deploying the web app to the web app, and here, because I have selected the deploy to slot, I will have the option of selecting the slot I want to use. Here I have selected the staging slot because here I'm inside the staging environment. I will run a quick web performance load test so that I make sure my app supports a large number of users in a small time. Once that's done successfully, now I'm ready to deploy my web app onto the prod slot. For that, I'll go to the prod environment, and from right there, I'll go and select the task right here, which will deploy my web app from the staging environment to the production environment. And here we do have another option, which is to deploy to the web app itself, not to a slot. This is what I have done. Note that you also have the option to deploy to the slot. In this demo, we'll learn how to use App Center distribute task in order to send the APK for the Android application or the API of an iOS application to our users directly without going through the Google Play or App Store. So here in my pipeline, I do have the production environment, where here I want to deploy the web app or to publish it to my final users through the Google Play. And I do have the same for the QA environment. I want to publish it to Google Play, but to a beta or alpha channel. But for the dev environment here, I don't want to pass through the Google Play. I want to push my application to my beta testers without going through the Google Play, because it takes like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 days to be pushed there, especially on non-working days. So here I'll be using deploy. I will be using App Center to do that. For that, I have added an App Center task, which you can find it right here. So I have added the task to my pipeline, and here I need to configure this task. So here I have done all the configuration. So here I have specified the App Center connection, which will grant access for VSTS in order to communicate with App Center. So here I have just clicked the new, I have specified the connection name, and I have get the API token, which you can get it from your App Center account. If you go to settings, or you go to your account name, then account settings, and from API tokens menu, you can ask for a new API token. So we select the description for that token. Here I call it demo-VSTS right here to be deleted. Then full access, granted full access. Then you get your token, you paste it right here to get access to App Center portal. Then we need to specify the apps like, and here it gives us in blue how we can get that apps like. So the apps like, if I go back here to App Center, if I go to my application, let's see, here I have created this demo app. So the apps like is the URL starting from your account name and ending with your application name. So let's copy that value and we paste it right here, and you have removed the app and from between the two values. I have removed apps. So it should be your account names slash your application name. Once we have done that, we need to specify some release notes. So when we'll be sending an email with the link to our beta testers, we want to tell them what are the new features that were added to this specific version, why they need to test this web app, what they expect in this new app. Once we have done that, now we are ready to send the new APK to our users. And we can also specify here a distribution or destination ID, which is the group we want to send to them our application. Here in App Center, we can define multiple groups. So by default, App Center creates the collaborators, but you can add here beta testers and intern testers and so on. So we can add groups manually, and we can add users to these groups. Here I have created the beta and intern testers groups. But for the sake of this demo, I'll send my web app to the collaborators. If you want to send the app to your intern testers or beta testers, then you will need to specify the destination ID, which you can get it if you select your beta testers, for example, or the intern testers. And then here you can click this icon right here, the edit icon, and you will have the destination ID that you can use in VSTS to send the APK to this specific group of users. In this demo, we'll learn how to use the task cloud-based web performance test in VSTS in order to perform load tests for our published web application. This enables us to send multiple requests to our web app and make sure that the average response is within an acceptable number of milliseconds. In my pipeline here, I do have the dev, staging, and prod environment. So after I have published my app in staging, I want to perform load web performance tests to that environment. So for that, here I do have two tasks in staging. So the first one will deploy the app into staging environment. Then I perform the quick web performance tests. So to add that task, we need to add it through VSTS to our pipeline, and here we need to configure it by specifying the website URL. So this is the URL for my staging web app. Then we need to specify a test name that will be displayed inside the on the pipeline. Then here we have the important parameters, which are here the user load. So how many users will be simulated for running the load web performance tests. Here I select the maximum number, 250. Then here those 250 users will try to access my web app in how many milliseconds and how much time. So to make it harder, I want them to access in just 60 seconds. So this will create lots of load on my app. Then here I can specify if I want the fail test if average response time exceeds certain number of milliseconds. If it's 0, then I don't have a maximum value, but here I want my average response to be within 300 milliseconds. Once that's done, now I'm ready to run this pipeline and run the quick web performance tests to see the results. Note here that we can specify also the location for those simulated users. So if your web app on Azure is inside a certain region of those, maybe you are interested to choose the same region, or maybe you are interested to choose another region.